They say you hear a kind of silence when your heart breaks. I didn't. I heard the AC humming just above the door frame, a soft metallic click from the elevator down the hall, and the sound of her breath catching like she'd swallowed glass. No cinematic collapse, no thunder, just the tiny noises that remind you how quiet the world gets when it stops caring about your pain. I watched him touch her. Not in the way a man touches a woman he loves. It wasn't even lust. It was ownership, that smug, casual kind you see in boardrooms in war zones. His fingers slid under the hem of her skirt, 2 inches too familiar. And he looked at me, tilted his head, and said it like a joke, "Leave. She's mine now." Or face me, man to man. There was a beat, maybe 2. Then I smiled, not because it was funny, but because it had all finally crystallized. That was the last piece. The final insult. A hand under a skirt, a threat wrapped in a chuckle. That's all it took to unlock something I'd been keeping quiet for too long. 10 minutes later, he couldn't walk, stand, or talk. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I didn't even breathe heavy. Just broke him piece by piece like a man dismantling an old clock. I knew exactly what I was doing. The tibia snaps with a dull wet crack. The jaw is easier if you pivot the heel just right. Ribs, well, ribs are trickier. But I got there. It wasn't rage. It was precision. He didn't see it coming. People like him never do. They think the quiet ones are weak. They don't notice the way we watch, the way we wait. Funny thing is, it wasn't even the worst part. Not the bruises I left. Not the silence afterward. Not even the blood. No, the worst part came days before, in whispers and glances that didn't belong in our kitchen. The way she turned the mug handle away from me. The way her phone lit up at night and she let it ring out, eyes fixed on nothing. She'd met him 6 months earlier. Alpha was the word she used, not to me, to her sister. I overheard it in the hallway. She thought I was asleep. Alpha. Like some kind of prize dog. And I suppose that's what it was about. Power. His was loud, performative, dressed in tailored suits and cologne that smelled like a middle-aged identity crisis. Mine? Mine was quiet. Built in a basement with books and bruised knuckles. It doesn't walk into a room. It waits. I started noticing the small betrayals first. A missing earring in the bathroom that didn't belong to her. The smell of his cologne on our guest towel. Once, I found a wine glass, just one, hidden behind the record shelf. Lipstick. Not hers. She didn't lie. She omitted, which is worse in a way. A lie at least gives you something to fight. Omission just leaves you with silence. Then came the text. He'd sent it from her phone. I don't know if he was drunk or just arrogant, probably both. You don't satisfy her anymore. Walk away before I make you. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand, but because part of me still didn't believe anyone could be that simple. The rest unfolded fast. She told me she was working late. I followed her to the Wexler Hotel, room 8004. It was raining. I remember because the rain didn't feel cold, just wet. Pointless. I knocked. He opened. Shirt unbuttoned, belt halfway undone, drink in hand. He looked at me like I was a doorman delivering bad news. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes wide, lips parted like she wanted to speak and didn't know what language to use. That's when he touched her. That's when he smiled. And that's when I decided there's a kind of silence after violence that isn't peace. It's absence. Absence of fear, of pretense, of anything resembling humanity. He lay on the floor, his body twisted into something unrecognizable. And I looked at her. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared, like she was trying to figure out who I was. I walked out. He lived, though not well. Jaw wired shut, casts on both legs. Something in his spine shifted. They said, he won't run again. Won't lift more than a grocery bag. His voice comes out in a thin rasp, like a man constantly apologizing. She tried to reach me once. Left a note in the mailbox. I burned it without reading. Not because I hate her, I don't. But because the story ended where it needed to. Sometimes the only way to survive betrayal is to let the silence speak for you. What I learned? Some people confuse patience with passivity. But still water isn't weak. It just waits for the right moment to drown you. I am not proud of what I did. But I'm not ashamed either. There are lines you don't cross. And if you do, you better pray the man on the other side isn't me.